Welcome back to Inside Politics. Our guest today, Nashville historian Bill Carey and State Representative Harold Love Jr. We're talking about what's been going on in the recent furor over what happened in Charlottesville last weekend and the furor over Confederate statues and other things of that nature in the last several days. Bill, we've been talking about the Nathan Bedford Forrest bust at the Capitol. You indicated to me before we came on that you're really amazed at the continued popularity, and at least in terms of naming things after Nathan Bedford Forrest, as compared to almost any other Tennessee hero.
He's just somebody
potential hero.
Yeah, he's just somebody who has this status. But in the 1930s, I think it was, a survey was done of Tennessee historians, and I believe Nathan Forrest was #1, not Andrew Jackson. He's just always had this pull, and he is a remarkably amazing military. His military record is incredible, but he is a very complex figure, and I can understand how some people despise the name, but I can also sort of understand why some people militarily revere him. But it really is a very complex story, and what happened at Fort Pillow is probably the thing that people should talk about more also than just the Klan. But
Representative Love, we're in a situation right now where, again, there are calls to remove the Forrest bust from the Capitol. Governor Haslam has once again indicated his support for doing that and getting it. He doesn't believe it's appropriate in the Capitol. Neither does Senator Corker, and now Senator Alexander has joined as well. But none of them can do that directly. It has to go through a process. The state legislature can act on that. Right. What are your thoughts about the legislature removing it itself? That's going to be a hard job.
I think the easier task is for the Historical Commission and the Capitol Commission to act, because you must remember also this will be coming up in an election year, 2018, and I certainly don't want my colleagues to have to be hamstrung on a re-election bid because of a vote on this particular topic.
This came up 2 years ago, right after the massacre at the historically black church in Charleston. There was a lot of furor about it at that time, but by the time the legislature acted, it actually made it harder to take it down, because now it takes a 2/3 vote of that historical commission, not just a regular vote. What does that mean for those who want to get the bust out of there? Are you going to have to continue to put on a lot of pressure until this comes up?
Yeah, and I think I would like to have us also not just talk about the issue of the Klan that Nathan Bedford Forrest was involved in, but the fact that he led an army that was in rebellion of the current established government of that time, which is the same government we have now. So we're talking about keeping a bust in the Capitol of a gentleman who led a rebellion against the established government. How do we justify that in our state capitol, lifting him up when clearly we have persons that you said who are great war heroes who served our country well? So I hope that we can get the Historical Commission and the Capitol Commission to move so the legislature does not have to deal with that problem.
Bill is at the heart of a lot of this issue in terms of what we do and how we remember the Civil War. Is it a disagreement or just sort of a disconnect between what the war was really all about? A lot of people say it was about slavery. Other people say it was more about civil rights and resisting a federal government that they thought at that time was out of control.
Well, there's a lot of evidence. There's a lot of editorials in there. If you pull up newspapers from 1861 to 1865, there's a lot of editorials that will tell you that the war was about something almost different than what anybody realizes now. It's very complex. But I will mention one analogy. I had a friend in college and whose parents, and these are wonderful, nice people, his parents collected memorabilia from World War II that consisted mainly of Nazi memorabilia, and they had a whole room of it. And to them, this stuff wasn't any more meaningful than stuff I might have brought home from the Desert Storm War where I went to. It was just war trophies. Well, about 10 years ago, I asked them, and it turns out they had to get rid of that stuff. And I said, why? And they said, because people thought there was something wrong with us. And so there are times when the interpretation of something is bad enough.
So there needs to be a societal attitude change.
I'm just saying there are points where you just say, and I will mention one other thing. Our friend, we all knew him, Senator Henry. Last weekend, those guys marching on that statue, saying those things, that would have killed him. That would have killed him once and for all. And it would have broken his heart, and it wouldn't have broken anyone's heart more than it would have his. And so it's not about the way he acts and the way Representative McDaniel acts and the way that Ridley Wills acts. It's not about that. But what happened last weekend, I mean, really shook a lot of us to the core. So.
Representative Love, I think this is under the same process. There was an effort made, and a successful effort at MTSU, to rename a building down there that was named after General Forrest,
Sure.
and that actually, the process actually works.
Yeah.
So you believe the process can work, although that took quite a bit of time to get that done.
It's not impossible. It just requires people to have the courage to do what's right. And again, I would rather have it done between now and December rather than come back in January and have our entire legislative session focus on this one issue, because this could be very well something that divides this already tenuous state legislature, because you will have persons like myself who clearly will say, you don't understand what it means every time I have to walk past that bus and I'm reminded of the fact that not only did he own slaves and kill slaves, but he massacred those who had surrendered.
He sold them.
Yeah.
He was also a slave trader at one point. The State Department of Transportation bill does seem to be changing their mind. They at first resisted the idea of planting any more trees in front of the other statue of General Forrest is on private property out along I-65. Now, because of a request from the Oak Hill mayor, they're thinking they may come back and do that. Is that a good idea?
How big are these trees?
Well, they have to be pretty big, obviously.
You know, like I said, it is private property, and a person who is on private property doesn't have the right for the state to clear it.
But the state got rid of the trees before.
Yeah, that's right. I will mention one thing to Representative Love. Can we make sure when it comes up that these two bills don't get mixed up and we don't send James K. Polk's body to the museum and send the bus to Columbia, because that is also what we're going to talk about next.
Bill Carey, thank you very much for being with us. Representative Harold Love, thank you as well for being with us. I'm sure we'll probably be talking about this issue in the future. And thank you for joining us on Inside Politics this week. Hope you'll be back here again for a future show. If you can't get enough politics in the meantime, go to the News Channel 5 website. You'll find my Capitol View commentary there. A new commentary posted every Friday afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you back here next time. Goodbye.